Hi everyone, if you like what I do, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and consider checking out my Patreon. Enjoy the video. Neglected by his zealot mother and forced to live cold and naked in a bare room, stripped of everything that had ever brought him joy, Isaac would eventually be forced down into the dark depths when the Lord demanded his mother make a sacrifice of him. Here he would be forced to fight his monstrous unborn siblings with naught but the tears of his sorrow, using trinkets from his old life in an attempt to stave off death just a little longer. At least this is how the situation had been reconciled in the mind of a disturbed child, for in truth there may be no basement, no monsters beneath the floorboards, only the breakdown of a family, and a child desperately trying to understand it all, bound by his own fears and insecurities. By the lizards long ago. However, the terrain can be extremely dangerous. Right, time to die. Isaac and his parents lived in a small house on top of a hill. Their life was simple, but happy, with Isaac's mother staying home with him while his father worked for their keep. Each night his father would come home to play games and make up stories with Isaac, before his mother would tell him parables of virtuousness and heroism from the Bible. Ensuring that he had said his prayers, his mother would kiss him on the head, and Isaac would drift off to sleep, with his beloved cat and best friend Guppy at the foot of his bed, knowing that he was safe and loved. Life can be cruel though, and Isaac would taste his first true sadness when Guppy became trapped in his toy chest, suffocating to death as a result. His mother would break down crying upon finding the body, and they would come to bury the cat in the garden alongside two other graves. Although having experienced death before, Isaac had been too young to process the loss of Cricket and Tammy, knowing them mostly from pictures his mother kept. But this time he knew that his best friend was gone, and felt a guilt that it was somehow his fault. It was his toy chest after all. Isaac would live with the sorrow and guilt, his days becoming darker, and the parables his mother told filled less with virtuous deeds and more with the wrath of God. The one bright point were the games with his father, even more so now that he would play them during the day. Isaac though failed to understand that something was deeply wrong in his family, for the reason his father was able to spend more time with him was that he had lost his job, causing his mother to sink more into a religion to cope with her worries. Things would only get worse, however, as Isaac's father failed to find a new job, and in desperation turned to gambling to try and support his family. While he had felt something was different ever since Guppy had died, hearing his parents' raised voices late into the night, Isaac only came to realize how bad things were when he saw his father taking money from his mother's purse. After that, the arguments only grew louder and more frequent, and still feeling the guilt about Guppy, Isaac could only think that it was all his fault, that if he had been a better son, then maybe his parents would still love each other, maybe they would still love him too. Even so, his father still played games with him, and made up fantastical stories, including a game about a homeless man named Bumbo, who descends into a mysterious hole in the ground to retrieve his stolen money. This was far from the whimsical play Isaac had believed it to be though, for through playing Bumbo, the fears and regrets of Isaac's father were laid bare. He himself was Bumbo, or at least a version of himself he was afraid to become. While they played, Isaac's mother watched endless evangelical broadcasts, placing her faith blindly in religion, praying for a miracle to save them. Between the dogmatic parables spouted by his mother and the ever darker games he played with his father, Isaac's mind began to recede, his fragile psyche unable to cope with the situation around him. His daydreams became filled with twisted images of demons and death, and the games he played by himself warped, much like his father's games of Bumbo, into manifestations of his own fears and anxieties. From then, the arguments would only get worse, as Isaac's father turned to alcohol and threatened to leave, only to have his mother push religion on him as an answer, until the day came where Isaac's father would accept that he was only causing problems and solemnly apologize to Isaac before going, as his mother pleaded with him not to. Without his father, Isaac's mother would completely spiral into her evangelism, no longer believing that it held the answers, but rather that it was the answer. She would start to neglect Isaac, causing him to fall ever deeper into his own mental turmoil. In an attempt to escape the hell his life had become, Isaac tried to run away from home. He had no idea how he would survive in the world, but he felt that if his father could do it, then so could he. To his disappointment though, he was found and returned to his mother, who was furious at him, and punished Isaac by taking everything she believed was sinful away from from him. Unbeknown to her though, Issac had hidden his bumbo games, and as solace, he would play with the scenarios his father had created before leaving, eventually finding a note at the end of one of them, explaining how Issac's imagination was boundless, that their games would be there for him when he needed to escape reality, and that his father would always be waiting for him in their next adventure together. The note would give Issac hope, but it was a hope that would be ripped away when his mother found him playing the game and went on to destroy it, exclaiming that it was just them now, and that his father was gone. Not having anything left, Issac fully retreated into his own mind, imagining scenarios where his mother attacked him with a knife, and he was forced to descend into the depths below the house, just like Bumbo had, in order to find his father. He would draw images of the things he had imagined, only to be scolded by his mother for doing so, and locked inside of a closet as punishment, where he would see dark apparitions and tainted images of himself. The continued neglect and abuse would drive Issac to hide from his mother inside of his empty toy chest, where he once more imagined fighting through the hordes of monsters with only his tears to defend him. This time, however, upon reaching the point where he would usually defeat some biblical monster, or even the deformed visage of his mother, he remembered of a note left by his father, once more giving him a hope, which brought him back to reality, only to realize that the chest had locked itself. Beginning to panic, thinking he was going to die there, just as Guppy had, Issac imagines a host of different scenarios, including himself as a suffocated blue corpse, and his mother finding his skeleton. Just as the panic begins to overwhelm him though, the chest suddenly opens, and Issac is lifted out by his father, the ascent shedding him of his fears and worries. After leaving, Issac's father had managed to get his life together, stop gambling, and even secure a new job, and had come back for Issac, becoming aware of the conditions he was living in after Issac had tried to run away. Stating that he still loves her and wants them to be a family again, Issac's father urges his wife to get help, while in the meantime taking custody of Issac. As a form of therapy to work through his trauma, Issac tells stories of the things he imagined while with his mother, with his father narrating them just like they had used to, until he suggests that Issac tell a happier story and recall a time when the three of them were happy together as a family, with a hope that one day it may come true again. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, then please consider liking the video, subscribing and sharing it with your friends. If you want to support the channel even more, then head over to Patreon, become a channel member or buy some merch. Links are all down in the description. I hope you all have a great day and I'll see you next time.